Hello, this is Chris and this is my pedalboard. Let's have a look at some lo-fi sounds that we can get, using only pedals, for some of that beautiful nostalgia. It would barely be a video about lo-fi if we didn't talk about EQ and vibrato, but first, I think this interesting combination does really well. The compressor, the sound that we get from old telephones, is basically a very compressed signal. We smash the signal with the compressor, we put it quite high up, and it takes those dynamics out. Dynamics are usually a lovely thing, but if we're going for lo-fi, we want to emulate that sound of the device not being able to pick up the different levels of volume, playing soft and loud. So if we really crush it, we'll get that almost old telephone vibe that actually sounds quite beautiful. The EQ starts with a dynamic Wah. Now, this can be an almost dynamic EQ. We've got that nice cocked Wah sound, but it's rather subtle and it moves around depending on how hard we play. Really, really good for finger picking. You couldn't really recreate this with a Wah pedal, although we are going to use that at some point, because the cocked Wah is a very good sound. But if you use a auto Wah, a dynamic Wah in this case, it responds to your playing. With a combination of the Wah and the compressor, it picks up the note in a really warbled way. The Boss EQ200 is really good because I can set presets on it. We use this cool trick of setting a bandpass filter, so we only let certain frequencies go. And I've got quite a lot of top end in here, and it won't be to everyone's taste, but the good thing about this is that you set it to taste. It emulates almost a broken speaker. You can set these to unity, but to push them really kind of pushes the amp in a strange way that can produce some tones that would normally want to avoid, but in this case, if we're going for that lo-fi feel, it makes it more desirable. Coupled with the vibrato, it can emulate the wow and flutter of tape, but I think the reason that it's so good for lo-fi is more to do with the fact that a lot of lo-fi artists use it. Mac Demarco, Graham Coxon from Blur and Solo. And Tailspin is a really good bang for your buck. The Boss Vibrato Waza sets you back like $230 or something like that. This is something like $50 online. And by the way, this is an expensive EQ. It's overkill. You could use a Behringer one or something that'll cost you like 25 bucks. Does this almost the same job. I like this because it's got presets on it. Tremolo is one of the oldest effects. It's attenuating the volume up and down. Hints at that rotary vibe. I think that the reason that I would use it is just because it gives me that nostalgia of old music, old guitar, and a lot of old guitar uses a lot of tremolo because it was one of the first effects available to guitarists. So some effects are for nostalgia, some are for emulation of tape or vinyl or broken speakers. This is basically just because it reminds me of old guitarists. I think a good spring reverb is very useful for lo-fi because, again, spring reverb, one of the earlier effects available to guitarists. Now, we're obviously trying to get that tape feel, and I like to kind of think about Daniel Johnston, his albums Hi, How Are You, and listen to that and listen to the way that the tape moves around. Now, yes, we can rely on vibrato or chorus to do that, but flanger is actually an emulation of an old tape technique of pressing the flanges of the tape down. If we think about it in a Barracuda sense, it can be a very extreme effect, but here I'm using the Boss line selector to add it in parallel. So we can just simply introduce a little bit of flange into the chain, the subtlety of which I think is a lot more pleasing for this genre of music. I'm using the MXR Flanger here, really, really solid. I like it because it's got all of the classic flanger parameters on it. It doesn't try to do anything clever. It gives you enough to work with. I've been experimenting with this pedal a lot recently. It's Time Shadows by Earthquaker Devices and Death by Audio. Good lads, top lads. And it doesn't advertise itself as a lo-fi pedal, but the fact that it's got this filter on it, and it's like a resonator delay. You do get reverb-like sounds with it, so I don't always use it with a reverb. But because it's such a resonator delay, it adds a saturation. It's very, very analog sounding. I'm pretty sure it's not analog. I'm pretty sure it's fully digital. I'm on the Death by Audio setting here. But it can give you an almost resonator guitar sound. Again, rather old-timely. That word can mean a lot of things. The Rat sounds really great by itself, really good distortion, really classic distortion. It's got that saturation that I'm looking for with lo-fi though. Graham Coxon, again, one of my favourite guitarists, uses it with vibrato. We're not going to try and sound like him here. He does do some lo-fi sounding stuff. If you listen to Kiss of Morning, very, very good lo-fi techniques used there. When you add vibrato and EQ to this, really, really almost horrible but beautiful Dinosaur Jr, Graham Coxon sort of sounds there. Let's have a listen. Now obviously I got the Hello Kitteh Fuzz. I like the way it looks, but it's not just a meme. It's a really, really great sounding classic fuzz pedal, which I was kind of light on. I've got about 20 fuzzes. It doesn't sustain like the same way. I like muff fuzz. But I wanted the combination of the sustain and the classic fuzz. We can get almost Jack White sounds like this. If Matt Pike can use a combination of fuzz and compression, people tell you not to do that because it can make it quite noisy, but in this case we want to do that really, really glitchy sort of fuzz. There's that word, I say that word all the time, but real Velcro glitchy fuzz. Normally you'd put a Crybaby or any wah pedal before fuzz, but if we put it after, we get this horrible. If you listen to a lot of early Dinosaur Jr, I'm sure that sound is Jay Mascis on Little Fairy Things. Jay Mascis using it sounds like he's using a fuzz. He's using a wah after a fuzz, which gives you a horrible, really, really harsh to really dull sound. Can get you a really, really great lead tone. One of the things that I discovered was that by using my small little amp that I bought for £10, which is like $15 a few years ago, using a tiny little speaker on that and recording it with just the microphone that's attached to the Zoom H6, the amp gives you another level of EQ afterwards that sounds desirable for this application. Guys, thanks for watching. If you want to join the Patreon, that's good, but like, subscribe, comment. Let me know who your favorite lo-fi artists are. Lo-fi can mean a lot of things. What does it mean to you?